All right. Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dig in.
Okay, good. Because today we're taking on a topic that just keeps making headlines. Cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to avoid these days.
That's for sure.
Seems like everywhere you turn, there's another story about Bitcoin or NFTs or some new blockchain breakthrough.
Exactly. And this time you guys send in some really interesting articles that I think touch on like every angle of the crypto world, honestly.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, from presidential endorsements gone totally wrong to the SEC shaking things up here in the U.S. Oh, and even a local story about someone getting their scammed Bitcoin back. Hard to believe, right?
Yeah, that is wild. I can't wait to hear about that.
So we've got articles from sources like Reuters, Barron's, the CT Insider, and even the Guardian. So like a truly global perspective.
I like it, a real mix.
Yeah, and we're going to try to make sense of it all, right?
Right.
Figure out what these stories tell us about where crypto is headed and what it means for all of us, not just the techie folks.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so let's kick things off with one of the wildest stories. This whole situation with the Argentine president, Javier Milei.
Oh, yeah, I read about that. That's a messy one.
Seriously messy. So basically, he was a big supporter of this cryptocurrency called LIBR, even like encouraged people to invest in it.
That's never a good idea.
Well, it turned out to be a disaster. The currency crashed, people lost a ton of money, and now Miley is facing impeachment.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows how volatile this market can be, right? Like, even if you've got a president backing a certain coin, there's no guarantee it's going to succeed.
Absolutely. And I think it raises some really important questions about the role of political figures in this space.
Yeah, like how much influence should they have? And what responsibility do they have when things go south?
Exactly. It's a tough situation because, on the one hand, you want leaders to be engaged with emerging technologies, but on the other hand, they need to be really careful about not misleading people, especially when it comes to their finances.
Right? And especially in a country like Argentina where, the economy has been struggling, people might be even more vulnerable to these kinds of promises of quick riches.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you're already facing economic hardship, the allure of a quick fix can be really powerful.
Absolutely.
And then when something like this happens, when a leader-endorsed currency crashes, it can really erode trust, not just in the government, but in the whole concept of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's like a double whammy.
Exactly. And it could have long-term consequences for the adoption of crypto in Argentina, People might be much more hesitant to invest in the future.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so speaking of uncertainty, let's shift gears and talk about what's happening here in the U.S. with the SEC.
Oh, yeah, the Binance lawsuit. That's a big one.
Huge.
Yeah.
So for anyone who hasn't been following this, the SEC is suing Binance, which is like one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world,
Right, a major player.
for all sorts of violations,
Yeah.
manipulating markets, misleading investors, the whole nine yards.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, to be honest.
But here's the thing, the lawsuit is on hold right now
Oh, why is that?
because a new task force is reviewing crypto regulations.
Interesting. So they're hitting the pause button while they figure out the rules of the game.
Pretty much.
Makes sense. The regulatory landscape for crypto has been pretty murky, so maybe this is a sign that they're finally taking a serious look at it.
Yeah, and the task force is led by Commissioner Pierce, who's actually been pretty vocal about being pro-crypto.
Ah, so there's a chance this could lead to more clarity and maybe even some more crypto-friendly regulations?
Possibly. I mean, right now, it's kind of like the Wild West out there, right? So having some clear guidelines could be a good thing for both businesses and investors.
Oh, absolutely. It could create a more stable environment for the industry to grow and mature.
Yeah, and it could also help protect people from, you know, scams and shady practices.
Right, because right now it's kind of a buyer beware situation.
Exactly. So we'll see how this whole task force thing plays out.
Yeah.
It could be a turning point for crypto in the U.S.
It really could.
Okay, now for another big shift. Charles Schwab. The investment giant, they're getting into crypto.
Whoa, really? That's a big deal.
I know, right? Like Charles Schwab, the name that your parents trust, your grandparents trust, they just appointed a new head of digital assets.
Wow, so they're serious about this.
They're definitely signaling that they're going to expand their crypto offerings.
I wonder what they're going to offer.
Well, there's talk of things like spot cryptocurrency trading, maybe even custody services.
Interesting. So they're basically making it easier for everyday investors to get involved in crypto.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge deal because it kind of legitimizes crypto in a way, Like if a company like Schwab is embracing it, maybe it's not so risky or fringe anymore.
Right. It could be a signal to other traditional financial institutions that it's time to get on board.
Exactly, like this could be the start of a major wave of adoption.
Potentially, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Okay, now let's bring it back down to earth a bit with a local story that I found really fascinating. It's about a Connecticut resident who managed to recover $180,000 in Bitcoin that they lost to a scam.
No way. Seriously.
Seriously, it was stolen through some kind of phishing scheme, where they tricked him into giving up his private keys.
Oh, man. That's a classic scam, unfortunately.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The Connecticut State Police actually got involved and helped him get his Bitcoin back.
Wow, that's impressive.
Right. Like, you don't always hear about law enforcement being successful in these cases.
Yeah, because crypto is often seen as this untraceable, anonymous thing.
Exactly. So it's encouraging to see that they're actually making progress in tracking down stolen funds.
It gives people some hope, Like, if you do fall victim to a scam, there might be a chance of getting your money back.
Definitely. It also shows that, criminals can't just hide behind the anonymity of crypto forever.
Yeah.
The law is catching up.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good thing for the long-term health of the industry.
Okay, so for our last story, let's go global again, because this one involves a Russian cyber criminal, an American teacher, and a whole lot of Bitcoin.
Ooh, this sounds juicy.
It is. So this cyber criminal, Alexander Vinnick, was recently released from prison in the U.S. in exchange for an American teacher who was being held in Russia.
Wow, a prisoner swap like something out of a movie?
I know, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Vinnick was the operator of BTCE, which was this notorious crypto exchange that was involved in all sorts of shady stuff.
Like money laundering and dark web activities.
Exactly. So basically, they were using Bitcoin to facilitate illegal activities on a massive scale.
So this whole prisoner swap was basically a high-stakes negotiation involving cryptocurrency.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
It just shows how crypto is becoming entangled with international relations in ways that we never could have imagined,
Right. It's not just about finance anymore. It's about geopolitics, power dynamics, the whole thing.
Exactly. It's a whole new world out there.
It really is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've seen how crypto can lead to political chaos, how it's facing regulatory scrutiny, how it's being embraced by mainstream finance, how it's impacting everyday people, and how it's even playing a role in international relations.
Quite the roller coaster ride.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, given all of this, I'm curious, what's your take on the future of crypto?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, it's impossible to predict with certainty, but I do think a few things are pretty clear.
Like what?
Well, first of all, crypto is not going away.
Yeah, it feels like it's here to stay.
It's too big, too influential, and too deeply embedded in the global economy at this point.
Okay, so what else?
I think we're going to see even more integration with traditional finance, like with the Schwab thing.
Yeah, makes sense.
And regulations will continue to evolve, hopefully in a direction that provides more clarity and stability.
Right, because right now it's still pretty chaotic.
It is, and I think we might even see some... Well, it's hard to say, but maybe we'll see crypto being used to track supply chains, verify identities, or even create new forms of digital art and entertainment.
Who knows what the future holds?
Exactly. It's an exciting time to be watching this space.
It really is.
But I think the most important thing for anyone interested in crypto is to approach it with a healthy dose of caution.
Oh, good point.
Like, do your research, understand the risks, and don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Solid advice.
And never, ever give out your private keys.
Words to live by. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the wild world of crypto.
Anytime. It was a great conversation.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thanks all of you for listening. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.